The first edition of the International PPP Forum in Congo Brazzaville is positioning to showcase the Republic of Congo's investment opportunities and how the government plans to leverage public-private partnerships. I'm Kenneth Igbomo, and I'll bring you highlights from the opening session of the forum as the government of the Central African country seeks to drive partnerships that will foster growth. Denis Christel Sassou Nguesso, the Minister of International Cooperation and the Promotion of Public-Private Partnerships, sets the stage with his opening remarks.
Monsieur le Premier ministre, chef du gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres du gouvernement et chers collègues,
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, heads of diplomatic missions and representatives of international organizations, Madame MP, Mayor of Kintele, ladies and gentlemen MPs, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like, first of all, to thank you for coming here to Kintele, where we are hosting this forum at the International Conference Center. I would like particularly to thank all those who came from abroad. Since you are here at home, because Congo is not only a land of opportunities, considering the assets it has, but it is, first of all, a land of hospitality, part of the African Gulf. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the Republic, His Excellency Denis Sassou Nguesso, in his vision of the country's growth, decided to make public-private partnership a mode of development. This great and ambitious decision was made for many reasons, but we can mainly remember three. The first is it is a funding mode, innovating, representing an alternative to public debt. The second, it favors not only the creation of wealth and direct and indirect jobs, but also the acquiring of the expertise necessary to our development. The third reason is that it is an accelerator of economic diversification, which is one of the main objectives of our government. But before everything, we must understand this concept, because public-private partnership are not simply an alliance between private and public interest, but it is first of all precise mechanisms abiding to certain provisions. The first of them is the reform of a certain number of provisions aimed at improving the business environment in our country. The public-private partnership is a contract through which the state and a local collectivity, a public company, entrust to a legal entity for a determined period part or all construction, transformation, exploitation, and management, maintenance of the state assets, be it equipment, infrastructure, or a public service. This mode of funding both innovating and win-win will allow to value our potentials and our assets in all sectors of activity. It is a question of funding mechanism, innovating of our economy, and sectorial project through the 6 pillars of our National Development Plan, and that's how that system can be transversal. That's how partners, private partners must play an important role to bridge the gap of our plan development, which is declined in 6 lines: the development of agriculture, industrial development, the development of our 4 special economic zones, development of tourism, development of digital economy, as well as estate promotion. It is in priority in those domains that we wish to attract investments in our country, but we remain open to investment in other domains, because the aim is the creation of wealth that generating growth and jobs. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the concept of Congo land of opportunities that we're carrying in every meeting we have been holding for months allow us to promote economic assets of our country by meeting actors, players of private sector throughout the world. This allowed us to meet partners from Arab United States, and we're going to pursue in this way because nobody else could present opportunities of investment in our country. But today we decided to meet Congolese investors while giving the possibility to foreign investors to come and discover our dear and rich country, offering a lot of investment opportunities. In the light of this vision, and to further secure your investment, that the government will examine a bill to submit to the Parliament in order to assist to improve the business environment. It will come and reinforce the existing laws, especially the one against corruption, the law for the creation of companies, the Committee on Public-Private Dialogue, the one-point office for companies. Those mechanisms show that the government of our country is making the improvement of the business environment a priority, since it represents the key to growth, to economic growth. But we have also to say, and it is important to remind it, the main asset representing the foundation of economy is the criteria peace, security and stability. And in this respect, the efforts of the President of the Republic, Denis Sassou Nguesso, have enabled us to reinforce this foundation, without which no economy is reliable. We must pursue our efforts in order to create relevant conditions in order to make our country a land propitious for investment. As part of the assets in our country, we can quote, can list a certain number of natural assets. Our country is located in the heart of Central Africa and the Economic Community of Central African States, a market of about 60 million consumers, which represent a strategic position in terms of consumption and interaction with the sub-region and eventually with all the continent. Because, as you know, the free trade zone will turn the continent into a huge market that will become eventually, at the end of the day, the biggest market in the world. The zone in Point Noir, one of the most important in the world. Considering that strategic position of the port of Point Noir, we must increase our port infrastructure in order to increase the traffic that will have an impact on the mobilization of resources. And the 170 kilometers of coastland is an investment in the field of tourism. The availability of cultivable land, about 10 million hectares of land, which only 4% are exploited, is a basis on which we can further develop our agriculture and pave the way to agro-food industry, considering the fact that our country has a lot of rivers that's unique in the world. That is gas, potassium, and our forest potential. The Congo Basin includes several species of wood, and the new forest code instituted the principle of production share. And finally, we need to add the availability and the manpower represented by our power in the reinforcing of the human capital, which is a major concern for our government. I would like, I can't conclude my speech without a word on this important project, which shall be realized under the form of a public-private partnership, and that will strengthen sub-regional integration and favor free movement of people and goods in the sub-region. I named this project Road Rail Project. The different panels that will be put in place will enlighten us on the public-private partnership while serving connections between the public and the private, represented here by the member of government that who will present those panels. This approach reminds us that the will of our government is to change indicators in terms of economic models in order to favor the emergence of a diversified economy. It's through these words, ladies and gentlemen, that I would like to call the various private investors in this room to pursue during these 2 days thorough inflection and sharing and beneficial contribution.
Now, the meetings and conversations at the PPP Forum will pave the way for frank conversations between government and key stakeholders in the private sector as they forge a path for economic prosperity and partnership. Prime Minister of the Republic of Congo, Anatole Collinet Makosso, also speaks on the priorities of the National Development Plan and how the forum fits into their agenda.
Président du conseil municipal de la commune de Kintele, distingués invités, mesdames et messieurs. L'honneur m'échoit ce jour de m'exprimer devant vous au nom de son Excellence Monsieur Denis Sassou Nguesso, président de la République, chef de l'État, à l'occasion de la cérémonie d'ouverture de ce forum sur le partenariat public-privé. Je voudrais d'abord souhaiter à celles et à ceux d'entre vous qui sont venus de loin une chaleureuse bienvenue au Congo et un agréable séjour de travail à Brazzaville. Je me félicite également
Ladies and
de vous
gentlemen,
savoir
members of
nombreux ici,
government,
en tant
ladies
que
and gentlemen,
pour contribuer à la
heads
réflexion
of
sur la
constitutional
problématique du
institutions,
partenariat public-privé en République du Congo.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, head of diplomatic missions, ladies and missions, representative of the United Nations system, Madame the MP, Chairman of the City Council, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor today to take the floor on behalf of His Excellency Mr. Denis Sassou Nguesso, President of the Republic, Head of the State, on the occasion of the opening ceremony of this forum on public-private partnership. I would first of all wish to all those who came from far a warm welcome to Congo and a nice stay in Brazzaville. I much rejoice to see you here as participants to contribute to the reflection on the issue of public-private partnership in the Republic of Congo. Public-private partnership, this mode of funding through which moral person transits management to a private entity, as we can witness, is more and more used in the world. Namely because everywhere in the world the state is facing big financial constraints, considering the big investment it has to carry out in throughout its territory. Also, in many countries, the state is facing some experience in the production of wealth and services, because it is obvious that entities of the private sector mobilize funding more easily, and they have a more performing management tool. In Congo, where most of the sectors of activities have been liberalized, the legal and regulatory environment is at the service of this new change, and the government has chosen to grant the main source of funding of its national plan 2026 with the aim of diversifying its economy. To achieve this ambition, important financial means, technical, managerial means must be mobilized. To this end, the contribution of foreign partners of the private sector is necessary. I was saying that the legal and regulatory framework are appropriate. To illustrate this, the Charter of Investment that put in place the mechanism for putting in place the fiscal, custom, monetary, and judiciary factors favorable to investment. This Charter of Investment also marks the attachment of Congo to international instruments, namely the Uniform Act of the Organization for Harmonization of Law of Business, in acronym OADA. All these legal mechanisms will be completed by the law on public-private partnership in order to secure investment. That's why a law that is being worked out in the Parliament during the session that is going to open in the coming days. All those arrangements contribute to the improvement of the business environment in order to improve the living condition of people.
Qu'il pourrait mettre à la disposition de notre pays. Mesdames et messieurs les membres du gouvernement, distingués invités, chers participants, il est indéniable que les secteurs privés jouent un rôle primordial en tant qu'acteurs importants du développement durable. De ce fait, ils constituent un partenaire important pour la framework.
It's good to stress that Congo is a country that offers conditions of peace and stability, which allow environment, business, and private and public and foreign investment. As a whole, this total of assets is here and deserves to be valued and for investment. So here we have to say that we also think of different partners in development to participate in the setting of our plans, of development plan of our country. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, dear participants, it's unavoidable that the sectors that will play a first role as actors in development, in this way, the private sectors constitute an important part in the development of the country, in job creation. This justifies the role of private entities in the role of mobilizing public money for the country. Our government has understood that this fact and making of the private sectors giving its big role for developing the country. Our efforts are geared by the government's will to give a good environment for the business, for business. Ladies and gentlemen, guests, dear guests, as you know, international cooperation is for the public. It used to be for public sectors. Now finding a place for the private through innovating sectors. And that's why Congo is making of economic diplomacy. It's a battle things. Here in Kintele, this is why in Kintele we have this first forum on the public-private partnership. It's very important to show the population that the economic diplomacy is not only for the government, but also for the political will of the people, which is active in the private sector, which is in getting the country out of economic stresses. In this way, we're going for a fully fledged cooperation. No sector will be left out. The field is big, so it's up to the partners to accompany the government in the work they have to do. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, it's very important, therefore, that from this forum we will call on the expert investors, private investors, and public investors to exchange, to liaise in the ways of how to make financing to help the Congo with its economy, in order to achieve sustainable development. I cannot finish this without congratulating the efforts of our friends in the sector of bilateral or multilateral diplomacy for Congolese and foreigners in the building of. In this way, all I have to do is to declare open in the name of Excellency Denis Sassou Nguesso, President of the Republic, Head of State, this first forum on private and partnership forum. Good success, good luck to you all, and thank you very much.
Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention.
And this brings us to the end of the proceedings. 6 sectors targeted by the government to drive their engagement with the private sector, from agriculture, industrial development, special economic zones, and tourism, just to mention a few. The government plans to run this forum every 2 years, and as always, we will be keeping our eyes on the developments. I'm Kenneth Igbomo. Thanks for watching.